Hi, my dearest of family. Today I'm back with an in-depth video about the Mercury retrograde. This Mercury retrograde is pretty special, actually, so I wanted to make a separate video about it. But if you would like to get a bit more insight on a weekly basis, then I usually make an hour weekly video for my Patreons, as well as a good 15 to 20 minutes breakdown for each rising sign. So you can check that out on my website and you can sign up for it. Or if you need some navigation through the stars, then I have prepared a 2.5 hour yearly forecast for 2026 for each rising sign. It is about $35, I believe, and you can get that also on my website, AstroViktor.com. And if you are new to my channel, welcome, and you might want to sign up and press the like and all those type of lovely things so that the channel can grow, as well as you are not missing any of these important videos. Now, let's get going with this very exciting Mercury retrograde. Why is it so exciting? Well, it has just entered its shadow period, which is 20 degree of Scorpio. And it is making a conjunction to Mars immediately in its own shadow period. So I want to explain exactly what it means. Mercury will be moving into the sign of Sagittarius exactly to the 6th degree of Sagittarius, and then it's going to go retrograde and it's going to come back to that 20 degree of Scorpio. So let's break this down. The 20 degree of Scorpio is the most important degree in this entire cycle. So do you have any planets on 20 degree of Scorpio, 20 degree of Taurus, 20 degree of Leo, or 20 degree of Aquarius? Because then this is going to be a mega important 11 month for you. Let's call the 20 degree of Scorpio as the alpha degree. This is the start of everything because the pre-shadow period begins here. Well, it happens on the 21st of October, and then it features the Mercury-Mars conjunctions. And then the omega degree is going to be the 6th degree of, the omega degree is going to be the end when Mercury retrograde ends, basically stations direct, and that's going to be happening around the 29th of November. So the entire retrograde on the 20 degree of Scorpio is actually happening on Cancerian dwad. So I'm going to be infusing that into this reading as well. So the very part one of the entire cycle is basically the pre-shadow period between October 21st and November 9th. And that's going to be pretty much the incident here. So Mercury is the planet of communication, data, thought, agreements. And then we've got Mars involved here, which is the planet of action, aggression, but also it severes things, or Mars can represent weapons and impose. Scorpio is the sign of secrets, debts, taxes, shared resources, power, psychology, intimacy, death, and transformation. And then the Cancerian dwarf gives us an extra kind of like layer to it. So it represents deep emotions, the past, the family, national security, and also the homeland. So I'm going to be kind of like bringing this together on a global as well as on a personal level. I think this might indicate an aggressive revelation of secrets. We might be expecting some major disruptive news related to finance, war and secrets, power and resources. When it comes to the finance, that might be talking to us about sudden sharp market corrections or news about hidden debts, banking crises, kind of like a major corporate surgery, and that might get announced. Or the war and secret related, I mean, there could be an intelligence leak, for example, or a spy operation that gets exposed, or there could be some aggressive rhetoric um, agendas. Given the cancer ward, this could strongly relate to homeland security or deep-seated national grievances, actually. And then from a power and resource point of view, there could be, a certain type of power plays over shared resources like oil, gas, or even water, homeland, territories, and so forth. Now, on a personal level, this could indicate kind of like a bombshell type of conversation that we are about to be having. We want to get to the bottom of the story. We want to understand the entire picture. It can be a conversation that feels like an attack. It feels like that it is intended to cut super deep. The topic is scorpionic, so this is sexual issue, secrets, shared financial problems, or certain type of deep psychological wounds. Because of that Cancerian word, it can intensely feel super personal, emotional. It might um, drag up a family history or your own insecurities and fears as well. And Cancer often goes very defensive. With Mars being in the sign of Scorpio, that's kind of like a competitive scenario as well. So we need to be careful with Mercury and Mars because it could be kind of like the war of words, and we might feel very attacked, very sensitive, and then it can lead to certain type of arguments. Now, the phase two is when Mercury moves into the sign of Sagittarius, and then it's going to station retrograde there. Now, that's going to be happening around the 9th of November, and that's kind of like a philosophical crisis situation. So something explodes in the sign of Scorpio, and then Mercury moves into a very optimistic, truth-seeking Sagittarius sign, and then it tries to connect the dot, it tries to make sense of all of it, and potentially it starts forming a new plan, a new belief system. Okay, that's what happened. Now, this is the truth. Now, this is the new plan for it. But because Mercury is going to go retrograde, that plan stops somehow. That plan hits a wall. So imagine this on a global level where, we've got, let's say, an international travel plan, a trade agreement, or certain type of diplomatic meetings. And then it gets suddenly cancelled or it becomes a bit chaotic. And that's where the media comes into the picture, of course, Mercury, Sagittarius, and so forth. We've got the big truth here. And the truth is somehow being pushed, and suddenly something gets exposed. Maybe, a certain type of false information, or this is the classic foot in the mouth type of energy that what we are experiencing. Or there could be let's say, a new university policy introduced, or a very interesting legal ruling as well. And maybe that gets to a halting point, and then it has to be reviewed. Now imagine this on a personal level where you have got this big plan. Maybe you want to start a new course, you want to relocate, you want to travel, you want to publish a book, all those Sagittarius topics. And then it hit a wall again. It hits a wall. And then maybe you start beginning your own beliefs. You are looking for the truth. You are trying to make sense of all of it. And you might even say something, something blunt or tactless. And then you might even regret it immediately, and then you want to walk back on it. So, of course, because Mercury is turning retrograde. And then now we got to the phase three, and basically that's going to be happening between November 9 to November 29th, where the review element is happening. So Mercury starts its retrogression on 6th degree of Sagittarius. And then around the November 19th, it goes back into the sign of Scorpio, and then it walks back to that 20 degree. So basically, this is going to be our kind of like retreat. So we are retreating ourselves from a philosophy, and then we are, in a way, forced to look back into the psychological source of the problem. We're going to have a Kazemi happening around the November 20th. Mercury will join the Sun, I think, on 28 degree of Scorpio. And that's, we can look at it as the heart of the retrograde. That's a moment of profound, illuminating clarity. A secret is highlighted, a secret is revealed, but not with the aggression of Mars anymore, because Mars kind of like has moved forward. So this is like clarification here. This could indicate an aha moment where you finally understand the whys behind that October 21st conflict. Now, I'm giving you loads of dates here, but don't think it that it's going to happen exactly on the 21st of October and so forth. So you might also want to just remember that. So, but on a low global level, it could indicate that, let's say, the true financial standing or the real secret or the hidden motive behind the power play is illuminated for all of us to see it. So let's call it kind of like a smoking gun that could be happening there, a piece of information, a piece of data that is found. And on a personal level, this would be a psychological breakthrough. Now I start understanding my own motives, the truth, that those unspoken feelings as well, that we might have been kind of like battling with for a while. And maybe this Kazemi makes us realize that honesty is super important. And then the part four, or the phase four of this Mercury retrograde, is the resolution bit, when Mercury actually stations direct. And again, that's going to be happening, of course, on 20 degree of Scorpio. So imagine this as we have returned to the scene of the crime, the exact degree of the Mercury-Mars conjunction. But now we are not the same anymore. The aggression has gone. The issues has remained though. We have got now the philosophical review of Sagittarius. And then we had those Kazimis, which were your emotional insights, your true understanding of what exactly went down. So therefore, we approach now the issue from a clarity point of view. So on a global level, it could indicate a new plan is going to be announced, for example, to finances, secrets, power issues, something that got exposed around the 21st of October. But this time around, it's more considerate, more psychologically attuned. Potentially, it's more based on real data, and there is no aggression to it. And then on a personal level, this could actually indicate that you are having a second conversation with someone. It's like, okay, we had a fight. Great. I've had the time to think about it. I've analyzed, I've realized some things. Can we talk about this, please? So we renegotiate, for example, debts. We are healing those intimate wounds. We are addressing these family secrets, but with a lot more emotional intelligence. So to summarize on these degrees, October 21st, the shadow starts. This is a little bit painful, secret revealing conversations. Then we've got the November 9th, where we station retrograde. That's the big picture, the plan, the beliefs, but it's has got its flows. Then we've got the retrogression, November 9 to 29, where we are forced to review our plans, our visions, our beliefs. And then we're going to start looking at the psychological root of the problem. And then we've done the revised plan. And then from the end of November, we get back to the original problem, but wow, now with a lot of insights, better data, clarity, and we are ready to solve the problem. So let's talk about that Mercury Mars a little bit more in depth. This is a very investigative combination, actually. This combination wants to dig deep. It is not satisfied with surface level answers. It's the detective Sherlock Holmes archetype. This is the psychologist. This is the researcher who won't stop until they get that core truth of the matter. However, there is anger there as well, unfortunately. Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. Mars is super powerful in the sign of Scorpio. It's actually stronger than in the sign of Aries. So it's not just a simple irritation. This is a very deep, potent, focused anger as well. I mean, this combination is very strategic. It can become super ruthless as well, especially when it feels betrayed or threatened. And the Cancerian word is adding the family, the roots, the homeland to it. So therefore, it could be like I'm going to be protecting my family at all costs, or I'm investigating the family roots. Or it indicates that whatever is going down, that frustration, it feels super personal and it makes me very emotional as well at the same time. And why I'm angry is because I feel threatened. My family is being attacked. A deep wound from the past has been reopened. So, there is another very crucial layer to it. Both Scorpio and Cancer, the Cancerian word represents the past. And of course, Mercury retrograde is going to represent the past as well. That's the nature of retrogrades, right? A retrograde means that we have to redo, revisit, review, return to something. Now, the Scorpio element, Scorpio holds on to things. It rules our deep psychological memories, the trauma, the unresolved issues, unresolved businesses. And unlike other signs that might move on, Scorpio is kind of like keeps a record of it. And then it finds the record, it gets triggered, and then I'm gonna prove it. Let me get that piece of record. This happened on the, I don't know, 29th of December 2005, for example, right? So this is about our deepest history, something that has got buried. And the Cancer is the sign of past anyway. So, the Cancer is the sign of memory, the ancestry, the roots, our personal past. It's kind of like the Cancer is the sign which gives you that feeling of, oh, this again. And this feels just like it had happened before. It happened to my family as well. So often in Cancer, we are dealing with the same security issues like our ancestry had done, or I have been dealing with for years. And Mars is the key there, which is, of course, Mars is the planet of like moving forward and action and new beginnings. But the retrograde Mercury is going to reverse this. And Mars is kind of like screaming, go, while Mercury is kind of like slamming on the brakes and putting the car in reverse. So this is a really much of an intense type of energy there. So to understand, Cancer is the memory, emotions, the sentiment, the nostalgia, the family patterns, the childhood, the emotional imprints, while the scorpionic past is more to do with the consequences, the power, and the psychology, the buried trauma, the skeletons in the closet, pretty much the inherited and karmic debts as well, or psychological complexes. Often this is an emotional entanglement. So when we combine the two energy, there is not just this gentle, nostalgic memory that is popping up, but it's kind of like an excavation in the tooth. And if it doesn't get filled up, then if it doesn't get the filling, then it's going to hurt significantly. Now, what's also very interesting is that Mercury and Mars are meeting up, and then the Sun enters the sign of Scorpio and is going to run into a square with Pluto immediately. So, even though these are not connected, I mean, it is connected to a certain extent because Mercury and the Sun will make a cosine, right? So therefore, they are connected. And the sun in Scorpio, it is just a focal point there. That sun is very focused on uncovering the secrets and to have control, to maintain the control as well, or it wants the absolute truth of the matter. No matter how deep it is buried, I'm gonna find it. And then we've got Pluto in Aquarius, which actually represents evolutionary force connected to systems, technology, society, the collective. It's the power of system, it's the power of people, it's the power of who I know, the networking. So when we bring these two together, surely that sun is exposing a secret. It's a major power player or leader who has got their own secrets, hidden finances, the power plays, and these are getting exposed. Something is leaking out here. And then obviously you can be looking at your individual power as well as the power of the system as well. This is a kind of like a classic David and Goliath transits. It's a will of a single powerful entity against against a system, and that's Pluto. So it's kind of like a major government versus the corporate showdown. I mean, it can represent some banking crisis, technological breakdowns as well, or my truth versus other people's truth. Sun in Scorpio can be very convinced that this is a great truth of mine, and Pluto in Aquarius is there to expose more of a collective truth. But on a personal level, this is the crisis of will. So you feel an intense, obsessive need to be in control of a situation, but you might feel powerless against this large force. Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's, many of your friends. Maybe this is the financial system. Maybe it's on your own programming as well. So you are somehow forced to confront your own shadows and potentially having to deal with them. It says that you cannot hide anymore. The sun is putting a spotlight on the very thing that you have kept buried, and Pluto is demanding you to transform that. So, another very important piece of information that I would like to share is that on the day of the Mercury and Mars conjunction, we have got Nemesis, an asteroid, involved here as well. Hold on, actually, I forgot Nemesis. Um, 128. Astrological number is 128 if you wish to look it up in your own chart. Nemesis is about retribution. It's the inescapable downfall that we bring upon ourselves. It's often the representation of unaddressed shadow as well. So on one hand, we've got that Mars who is angry. Then we've got Mercury in Scorpio who does that investigation. So a nemesis is justice because I want to deliver justice. It's kind of like I want to hand in the bill to you. The bill is super due right now. And we use these angry words, kind of like as a vehicle for, for this bill to be paid back. So again, a secret is revealed, the truth is spoken, it acts and triggers, certain type of consequences. And potentially it went down in the past. But also it can talk to you about that why you are kind of like having this external enemy though. Nemesis does represent to a certain extent self-undoing as well. So you're gonna have to be dealing with your own past actions, your arrogance, your buried anger, and that gets to a boiling point. And with the Cancerian wood, of course, it's a karmic reckoning tied to your family and your roots and the past. Um, so Nemesis is a little bit um, difficult there. And there is another very, very, very important detail. When Mercury and Mars conjunction happens, meaning that Mercury enters its shadow period, Juno is on 6th degree of Sagittarius. Now, that is super important too. How to imagine this? We've got Mercury Mars Nemesis conjunction is the cause. of every single issue. And Juno in Sagittarius is pretty much the effect of it. So, like Mercury stationing retrograde is going to show that we are completely confused. The plans are stopping, communication breaks down, the review pretty much starts beginning. And Juno is the asteroid of marriage, legal partnership, contracts, the terms of the agreement as well. And Sagittarius is beliefs, philosophy, law, legislations, and our visions also. So it might indicate that you are reevaluating the truth of the partnership. Because obviously, with the Scorpio events, we fought, we had secrets, we had power struggles, and then we're going to start looking at our belief system. Like, what is the partnership really based on? Like I said, the big plans could hit walls, so maybe a major plan with a partner, like moving or traveling or starting a business and all those type of stuff. Maybe it gets put on hold, or maybe you are reviewing certain type of contracts as well, or there could be miscommunications within the partnership too. I mean, on a global level, this could indicate international alliances, a treaty, let's call it as a political marriage or a trade agreement that is actually stopping for some reason and it's going to be reviewed. Or, the big truth that comes out and maybe a major, investor or partner is going to pull out. It's going to start reviewing the terms of that commitment. So that is very much the Juno and its importance in this matter. But a couple of other things, because Mercury is going to make this kind of loop every 11 months. So what does that mean? In 2024, the last Mercury retrograde was from 25th of November till 15th of December on top of my head. But Mercury started its retrograde on 22 Sagittarius and it's stationed direct on 6 degree of Sagittarius. So that's the loop there. And it always happens. So it means that something that might have happened 11 months before that is connected to the moment that is happening right now. So let's call it as a station on station transit. It means that the story that we thought we had resolved and started moving forward from 2024, December 15th onwards, maybe that has to be reviewed right now. And with Juno being on 6 degree is bringing in the themes of commitments, contracts, and certain type of beliefs. So I hope that makes sense. I mean, I did look at what went down last year, around that time. There was some political crisis in South Korea. He tried to declare martial law, but it failed, and then it eventually led to his impeachment. I think that's a brilliant example of Mercury in Sagittarius retrograde. And then from an alliances, international alliances or conflict point of view, there was a lot of activity happening in the Red Sea, and that disrupted global shipping. I mean, Mercury in Sagittarius, Mercury is commerce and travel, Sagittarius is international. And of course, the ongoing wars in Ukraine and Gaza were also major topics of, major international debates and diplomacy. So most likely these are going to be somehow repeated topics. In the Gaza situation, there was a lot of diplomatic talks brokered by Egypt on top of my head, or Qatar, and of course the US as well. And the station direct basically when Mercury stopped moving forward, the news were filled or was filled with like cautious optimism. They came up with a ceasefire. Um, so that's That's kind of like the new plan there. And then from a Russia and Ukraine point of view, there would be peace debates, but not talks, unfortunately. So there was the UN Security Council meeting in December 2024. Um, and Russia's argument was that the Western weapons supplies were undermining a peaceful settlement. So the West argument was that Ukraine's, sovereignty, which is really Juno, was non-negotiable. And how interesting that we are about to be having again peace talks happening, which Hungary facilitates. The dates are, I think, not set yet, but it's going to be happening potentially in the next 2 weeks. So surely that's going to be a topic here. Maybe this is the resolution. Maybe, finally we are going to be able to find peace there. I mean, let's see. I mean, do let me know what you think about this Mercury retrograde. This is a super exciting one. And I would say that this is not just a regular Mercury retrograde. This is a little bit more on the intense side of that. So, guys, I hope you like this video. If you did so, you know what to do. Press like and subscribe and share it with others. Make a comment and I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye bye.